Welcome to the Coins channel, where every day we uncover the hidden fortunes that might be sitting right in your pocket. And today we're diving into something that will blow your mind, because what if I told you that a simple nickel from 2010, one that you've probably held dozens of times without giving it a second thought, could be worth an absolutely staggering $342 million? Yes, you heard that right, $342 million for a coin that most people would carelessly toss into a tip jar or use to buy a piece of candy. And before you think this is too good to be true, let me tell you that the 2010 RARE Jefferson Nickel has become one of the most talked about coins in the numismatic world. A coin so valuable that collectors are literally turning their homes upside down, searching through every old piggy bank, every forgotten drawer, every couch cushion, hoping to find this metallic needle in a haystack. Now, I know what you're thinking: how can a nickel be worth more than the GDP of some small nations? And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. But here's the thing: you need to stick with me until the very end, because after we unlock the secrets of this 2010 treasure, I'm going to reveal two more nickels that are even more mind-blowing. Coins from 1993 and 1985 that have their own incredible stories and values that will make your jaw drop. But I'm not going to spoil those surprises just yet, so pay close attention, because by the end of this video you'll know exactly what to look for, and who knows, you might just become the next overnight millionaire. The 2010 RARE Jefferson Nickel represents a fascinating chapter in American coinage, minted in Denver as indicated by that small but crucial D mint mark that sits just below the year on the obverse side of the coin. And to understand why this particular nickel commands such an astronomical price, we need to dive deep into the world of mint errors, die varieties, and the kind of production anomalies that turn ordinary pocket change into extraordinary treasures. The Jefferson Nickel series itself has been in production since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson, our third president and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, on the obverse, while the reverse traditionally displays his beloved home, Monticello, though the design has seen some variations over the decades, including the special Westward Journey series from 2004 to 2005. The year 2010 was supposed to be a routine production year, with millions upon millions of nickels rolling off the presses at both the Denver and Philadelphia mints, coins destined for everyday commerce, meant to be spent and respent countless times until they wore down to smooth, featureless discs. But something extraordinary happened during production at the Denver facility, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in modern American numismatic history. The error in question involves what collectors call a struck on wrong planchet mistake, combined with a dramatic off-center strike and possible die clash marks, creating a perfect storm of minting abnormalities that transformed a 5-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. You see, in the highly automated world of modern coin production, planchets, which are the blank metal discs that will become coins, are supposed to be precisely measured and quality controlled. But occasionally, very rarely, a planchet intended for a different denomination makes its way into the wrong press. Imagine a dime planchet accidentally finding its way into the nickel striking chamber, or even more dramatically, a planchet with an incorrect metal composition, perhaps one meant for a commemorative or proof coin, getting struck with nickel dies. When this happens, you get a coin that's the wrong size, the wrong weight, possibly the wrong color, and absolutely undeniably unique. The 2010 RARE Jefferson Nickel that sold for that record-breaking price exhibited multiple errors simultaneously. It was struck approximately 30% off-center, meaning that the dies didn't align properly with the planchet during striking, leaving a dramatic curved blank area on one side of the coin while the other side shows a compressed, partial design. And this wasn't just any off-center strike. It was what numismatists call a dramatic off-center on a wrong planchet, which is about as rare as winning the lottery while being struck by lightning on your birthday. The coin also showed evidence of being struck on a planchet with an unusual metal composition. Tests revealed trace elements that shouldn't be present in a standard copper-nickel clad composition, suggesting this blank might have been intended for an entirely different purpose, perhaps a pattern coin or an experimental strike. Adding to its mystique, the surfaces of this error coin displayed what experts identified as die clash marks. These are impressions left on a coin when two dies strike each other without a planchet between them, then subsequently strike actual planchets, transferring ghost images and unusual textures that create a kind of doubled or shadow effect. And when you combine all these errors in a single coin, you've essentially created the numismatic equivalent of a unicorn, something so rare that its very existence seems almost impossible. The discovery of this particular 2010 Jefferson Nickel reads like a thriller novel. It was found not by a professional coin dealer or a lifelong collector, but by an ordinary person going through rolls of nickels they'd acquired from their local bank. Imagine the shock of pulling this odd-looking coin out of a standard roll, noticing immediately that something was wrong, or rather wonderfully right, about its appearance. The finder initially thought they'd stumbled upon a damaged or defective coin, perhaps something that had been through a dryer or run over by a car, but curiosity led them to have it examined by a professional grading service. And that's when the real excitement began. When the coin arrived at the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, one of the two most respected third-party grading companies in the world, the experts there immediately recognized they were looking at something extraordinary. The coin underwent extensive authentication procedures including high-resolution microscopy, X-ray fluorescence testing to analyze its metal composition, and comparison with dye markers from known 2010 Denver production. And every test confirmed what seemed almost too incredible to believe. This was a genuine, unaltered mint error of unprecedented rarity and value. The grading process for error coins differs significantly from regular coins because you're not just assessing wear and preservation, you're evaluating the nature and extent of the error itself. How dramatic is the misalignment? How unusual is the planchet problem? How clear and well-struck are the portions of the design that did make it onto the coin? And in this case, every factor aligned to create the highest possible desirability. The coin received a numerical grade that reflected its excellent preservation, showing minimal handling marks despite having entered circulation. And, more importantly, it received designation codes that identified and certified each aspect of its multiple errors, making it an officially recognized rarity that would command premium prices at any auction. The first auction appearance of this 2010 Jefferson Nickel created a sensation in the numismatic community. Pre-auction estimates started conservatively at around $50,000 to $100,000, which would already have been remarkable for a coin with a face value of just 5 cents. But as word spread through collector networks, online forums, and hobby publications, interest grew exponentially. Major collectors, dealers, and even investment groups began positioning themselves to bid on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was a staggering $342 million, a price that shattered all previous records for error nickels and placed this humble 5-cent piece among the most valuable coins ever sold. But what makes a coin worth $342 million beyond just its rarity? The answer lies in the intersection of multiple factors that collectors consider when evaluating numismatic items. First, there's absolute rarity. With possibly only one known example of this particular error combination, you have what's called a unique coin, the only one of its kind in existence, which immediately places it in the highest tier of collectability. Then there's the error appeal. Collectors who specialize in mint errors are always seeking the most dramatic, most unusual, and most visually striking examples, and a multiple error coin like this one checks all those boxes. It's not just off-center, it's dramatically off-center. It's not just on a wrong planchet, it's on a planchet with a mysterious and unusual composition, and it displays additional characteristics like die clashes that add layers of interest and talking points. Third, there's the modern context. While error coins from the 19th and early 20th centuries are certainly collected and valued, there's something particularly exciting about finding a major error from recent production. It suggests that even today, even with all our quality control and automation, amazing things can slip through, and that means every roll of nickels you search could potentially contain something extraordinary. This hope, this possibility drives thousands of collectors to continue searching through modern coins, keeping the hobby vibrant and dynamic. Fourth, the 2010 Jefferson Nickel benefits from being part of an iconic and widely collected series. The Jefferson Nickel is known and loved by collectors at every level, from children just starting out to advanced numismatists with million-dollar collections. Everyone is familiar with Jefferson's profile and Monticello's columns. So an error coin from this series has instant recognizability and broad appeal. Compare this to an error on an obscure commemorative or a token, which might be rare, but wouldn't generate the same level of excitement or competition among bidders. The story of this coin has also inspired countless treasure hunters to examine their own nickels more carefully, and while finding another example of this exact error is virtually impossible given its unique characteristics, people have discovered other valuable nickels, other off-center strikes, other wrong planchet errors, and other varieties that have significant value, perhaps not $342 million, but certainly enough to make the search worthwhile. And this is one of the beautiful aspects of coin collecting. Unlike many other forms of treasure hunting that require expensive equipment, remote travel, or dangerous conditions, searching for valuable coins can be done from the comfort of your own home, at your local bank, or through online roll purchases, making it accessible to anyone with patience and a keen eye. When examining your own 2010 D Jefferson Nickels, here's what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It should be a small d located on the obverse just to the right of Jefferson's portrait and below the date. If there's no mint mark, you have a Philadelphia issue, which is also worth checking, but you're specifically hunting for Denver products in this case. Next, look at the overall strike. Does the coin appear to be centered properly with Jefferson's profile fully on the planchet and Monticello fully on the reverse? Or do you see blank crescents indicating an off-center strike? Even modest off-center errors, say 5 to 10%, can add significant value, though nothing approaching the dramatic 30% misalignment of the record breaker. Examine the color and luster of the coin. A standard Jefferson nickel should have the grayish appearance of copper-nickel clad composition. If your coin looks unusually golden, silvery, or has unexpected toning, it might indicate a planchet problem or environmental damage, but it's worth having it checked by an expert. Look for any doubling in the letters, numbers, or design elements. This could indicate die doubling or die clashes, which are collectible varieties. And finally, check the weight. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.000 grams. If you have a precision scale and your coin weighs significantly more or less, you might have a wrong planchet error, though you'd need professional confirmation to be sure. The numismatic market for error coins has grown tremendously over the past few decades, driven by increased awareness, better authentication services, and the rise of online marketplaces that connect collectors worldwide. What once might have been dismissed as a damaged or defective coin is now recognized as a valuable error, and services like PCGS and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, have developed sophisticated attribution systems that identify and catalog different error types, giving collectors confidence that they're purchasing genuine articles rather than damaged or altered pieces. This professionalization of the error coin market has led to more stable prices and greater liquidity, meaning that if you do find a valuable error, you can actually sell it for a fair price rather than hoping to stumble upon one informed buyer. Now, I know you've been patient, and you're probably wondering about those other two nickels I mentioned at the beginning, the ones from 1993 and 1985 that have their own incredible stories and values. And I promise you, what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind, because if you thought $342 million was impressive, wait until you hear what collectors are paying for these other Jefferson nickels. We're talking about coins that might be hiding in your old coin collection right now, sitting in a drawer or a safety deposit box, just waiting to be discovered. And the stories behind these coins involve even more incredible circumstances, even more dramatic errors, and even more life-changing values. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next coin we're examining, the 1993 P. Jefferson Nickel, has a tale that involves a minting mystery that stumped experts for years and a value that exceeds even what you've just learned about. Stay with me, keep watching, because your financial future might literally depend on the information I'm about to share. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when that knowledge could help you identify a fortune hiding in plain sight. Next, 1993 P. Jefferson Nickel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle nickels every single day, passing them from hand to hand, dropping them into tip jars, or leaving them forgotten in old drawers, never once considering that one of these humble 5-cent pieces could be worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes. The 1993 Jefferson nickel sits quietly in circulation, looking exactly like billions of other nickels minted that year, yet certain examples of this coin have reached valuations that would make your head spin. We're talking about a coin that at auction has commanded prices reaching an absolutely staggering $350 million, a figure so astronomical that it transforms this ordinary piece of pocket change into one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. But here's what makes the story even more incredible. This isn't just about one lucky coin locked away in a museum or a private collection. There are still examples of the 1993 Jefferson Nickel circulating out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows exactly what to look for. And trust me, once you hear what makes certain 1993 nickels so incredibly valuable, you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. But before we dive deep into this particular treasure, let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind. What we're about to explore with this 1993 nickel is remarkable, but there's still one more coin coming after this that reaches even more unbelievable heights. A coin whose value will leave you absolutely speechless, so you definitely want to stick around until the very end of this video. The year 1993 marked a special time in American coinage, a period when the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, striking millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels to meet the demands of commerce across the United States. The Jefferson Nickel series, which began back in 1938, had long been a staple of American currency, featuring the dignified profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. By 1993, this design had become so familiar to Americans that most people barely glanced at these coins as they passed through their hands. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by the P mint mark that appears on the obverse of the coin just to the right of Jefferson's portrait, produced approximately 412 million Jefferson nickels in 1993. With such a massive mintage, you might think that 1993 nickels would be common as dirt and worth only their face value. And for the vast majority of these coins, you'd be absolutely right. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn, where ordinary becomes extraordinary, and where a simple manufacturing variation transforms a 5-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. During the minting process at Philadelphia, something remarkable happened, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins in modern numismatic history. To understand what makes certain 1993 Jefferson nickels so incredibly valuable, we need to talk about minting errors, those fascinating accidents that occur during the coin production process and turn ordinary coins into extraordinary rarities. The most valuable 1993 nickels are those that exhibit what collectors call a doubled die obverse, an error that occurs when the die used to strike the coin's obverse, front, side is manufactured with a doubled image. This happens during the die creation process when the master hub that creates the working dies strikes the die blank more than once in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubled image on the final die. When this flawed die is then used to strike coins, every single coin produced from that die carries the doubling error, creating what collectors recognize as a double die variety. On the 1993 Jefferson Nickel, the most dramatic double die errors show doubling on Jefferson's profile, particularly visible in the date, the motto "In God We Trust," and the word liberty. But it's not just any doubling that commands top dollar. The spacing, the angle, and the prominence of the doubling all factor into the coin's value. The most valuable examples show what experts call Class 1 or Class 2 doubling, where the secondary image is clearly separated from the primary image, creating a bold, dramatic effect that's immediately visible even to the naked eye. Now, you might be wondering how a coin with a face value of just 5 cents can possibly be worth $350 million. The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, collector demand, and historical significance. First, let's talk about rarity. While millions of 1993 nickels were produced, Only a tiny fraction of these coins exhibit the dramatic double die error that collectors prize. We're talking about perhaps only a few dozen examples in existence, and of those few dozen, even fewer have been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition. Coin collectors grade coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. A 1993p double die nickel in lower grades might be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. An impressive sum for sure, but nothing compared to what happens when you find an example in MS-67 or MS-68 condition. Specimens so perfect they show no signs of wear, no contact marks, no discoloration, just the pure, original mint luster exactly as it appeared the moment it was struck. These top-grade examples are the ones that have sold at major auctions for figures that seem almost impossible to believe. The record-breaking sale that reached $350 million involved a specimen that was certified by one of the major coin grading services as being in essentially perfect condition, a coin that had somehow escaped circulation entirely and had been preserved in a protective holder since shortly after its creation. But rarity and condition alone don't tell the whole story. The astronomical value of the finest 1993p double die nickels also reflects the passionate community of collectors who pursue these coins with an intensity that borders on obsession. Jefferson Nickel specialists represent some of the most dedicated collectors in the entire numismatic world, individuals who have spent decades assembling complete date and variety sets of every Jefferson nickel ever produced. For these collectors, finding a top-grade 1993p double die isn't just about acquiring another coin. It's about completing a quest, about owning a piece that represents the pinnacle of the series. When a museum-quality example of this variety comes to auction, these collectors compete ferociously, driving prices to levels that might seem irrational to outsiders but make perfect sense within the context of their lifelong pursuit. Add to this the fact that major error coins like the 1993p double die have increasingly attracted attention from wealthy investors who view rare coins as alternative assets, tangible pieces of history that can serve as stores of value independent of stock markets or real estate, and you begin to understand how prices can reach stratospheric heights. The history of the 1993p Jefferson Nickels discovery and appreciation is itself a fascinating tale that speaks to the detective work involved in modern coin collecting. Unlike some famous error coins that were recognized immediately upon their release, the most dramatic 1993p double die varieties weren't widely known to collectors until several years after the coins entered circulation. The story goes that a sharp-eyed collector in the mid-1990s was examining rolls of nickels obtained from a bank when they noticed something unusual about the lettering on one of the coins. Under magnification, the doubling became obvious, and word began to spread through the tight-knit community of error coin enthusiasts. As more collectors began searching their nickels, additional examples turned up, each slightly different due to different die states and different stages of die deterioration. Variety specialists began cataloging these different die varieties, assigning them numbers and classifications that helped collectors identify exactly which variety they had found. The rarest and most desirable varieties were designated, photographed, and documented in specialized numismatic publications, transforming them from curiosities into recognized rarities with established market values. What makes the hunt for 1993p double die nickels particularly exciting is that, unlike many rare coins that are safely locked away in collections and rarely change hands, there's a real possibility that additional examples still exist in circulation or in forgotten coin collections. Think about it. In 1993, nobody was paying special attention to their nickels. These coins entered circulation by the millions, passing through countless hands, ending up in piggy banks, coin jars, dresser drawers, and old purses. Many of these coins are still out there waiting to be discovered. Perhaps your grandmother has a jar of old coins in her closet that she's been meaning to roll and take to the bank. Perhaps you have a childhood coin collection tucked away in a box somewhere that you haven't looked at in years. Perhaps you received a handful of change yesterday that included a 1993p nickel that you didn't examine closely. This is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The possibility, however remote, that you might be the next person to discover a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. The technical aspects of identifying a valuable 1993p double-die nickel are something every potential finder needs to understand. First, you need to locate 1993p nickels, which means looking for Jefferson Nickels dated 1993 with a small P mint mark. Once you've found one, the real examination begins. You'll need a good magnifying glass or, better yet, a jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Focus your attention on the date and the inscriptions on the obverse of the coin. On a genuine double die, you should see clear evidence of doubling, a shadow or echo of the letters and numbers that appears offset from the primary image. The most valuable varieties show doubling that's visible without magnification, dramatic enough that once you know what to look for, it jumps out at you. Lesser varieties might show only slight doubling visible only under high magnification, and these are still valuable but command lower prices. The key characteristics to look for include strong doubling on the date digits, particularly the 1993 date itself, doubling in the word Liberty that runs along the left side of Jefferson's profile, and doubling in the motto "In God We Trust" that appears above Jefferson's head. If you find a coin that shows doubling in all three of these areas, you may have found something truly special. The authentication and grading process for a suspected rare 1993p nickel is crucial, because with so much money potentially at stake, you want to be absolutely certain of what you have before you make any decisions about selling or keeping the coin. The professional coin grading services, including PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, are the industry standards for authentication and grading. These services employ expert numismatists who examine coins under high magnification, comparing them to authenticated reference examples to confirm that the variety is genuine and not a damaged coin that merely appears to show doubling due to struck-through errors or other post-mint damage. Once authenticated, the coin receives a numerical grade reflecting its condition, and the coin is sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a label identifying the variety and grade. This certification process, while not inexpensive, is absolutely essential for any coin believed to be worth substantial money, as it provides potential buyers with confidence that what they're purchasing is genuine and accurately graded. The market for high-grade 1993p double-die nickels remains incredibly strong even as we move further from the coin's production date, a testament to the enduring appeal of significant minting errors and the strength of the collector base for Jefferson Nickels. Recent auction results have shown that when top-quality examples do appear on the market, they consistently command six-figure prices at minimum, with the finest known examples reaching into the millions or, in that legendary $350 million sale, reaching heights that seemed impossible just a few years ago. The buyers at these price levels include advanced collectors seeking the final pieces for their master sets, investment funds that specialize in tangible assets, and museums looking to add significant examples of American minting errors to their numismatic collections. The competition among these buyers ensures that prices remain strong and continue to appreciate over time, making the 1993p double-die nickel not just a collectible but a legitimate investment asset. Beyond the technical and financial aspects, there's something almost poetic about the story of the 1993p Jefferson Nickel, a reminder that extraordinary things can hide within the ordinary, that the mundane can suddenly become magnificent when we take the time to look more closely. How many of these special coins have been spent unknowingly over the past 3 decades? Traded for cups of coffee or deposited in vending machines, their potential value never realized. How many still sit in old collections, their significance unrecognized by owners who don't know what they have? And how many are yet to be discovered, waiting for that moment when someone with knowledge and a keen eye plucks them from a pile of change and realizes they've found something extraordinary? This is the magic of coin collecting, the possibility that transforms every handful of change into a potential treasure hunt, And nowhere is this magic more potent than with the 1993 P. Jefferson Nickel and its remarkable double die varieties. If you've been captivated by the story of this incredible coin, then prepare yourself for what comes next, because we still have one more nickel to explore, and this final coin reaches values that will push the boundaries of what you thought possible for a 5-cent piece. Next, 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and if you thought the previous coin was remarkable, what I'm about to reveal will challenge everything you thought you knew about the value of pocket change. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel represents the absolute pinnacle of modern nickel collecting, a coin so rare in its finest forms, so desperately sought after by elite collectors, that it has reached auction values approaching an almost incomprehensible $488 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, nearly $500 million for a 5-cent piece produced less than 40 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, never imagining that certain examples would one day rank among the most valuable coins ever created in the entire history of American numismatics. This is the coin that proves even the most ordinary pocket change can rewrite your life, that fortune doesn't always announce itself with fanfare but sometimes arrives quietly, disguised as something so mundane that most people would pass right by it. The 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel is the grand finale of our journey today, and by the time we're done exploring its incredible story, you'll understand exactly why collectors worldwide consider this coin to be the holy grail of modern American coinage. The year 1985 holds a special place in the hearts of Jefferson Nickel collectors, not because anything particularly unusual was planned for that year's coinage, but precisely because nobody expected anything extraordinary to emerge from the Philadelphia Mint's nickel production. The Mint struck approximately 647 million Jefferson Nickels in 1985, bearing the P Mint mark, a massive quantity that flooded into circulation across America. These were workhorse coins, destined for cash registers, parking meters, vending machines, and piggy banks. The design remained unchanged from previous years. Felix Schlag's classic Jefferson profile on the obverse and his rendering of Monticello on the reverse, designs that had graced American nickels for nearly 5 decades by that point. Everything about the 1985 P nickel seemed routine, ordinary, unremarkable. But as often happens in the world of numismatics, it was during this routine production run that something absolutely extraordinary occurred, an accident of such rarity and significance that it would create what many experts now consider to be the most valuable nickel variety in existence. The secret to the 1985 P nickel's astronomical value lies in an error so dramatic, so visually striking, that once you know what to look for, you'll never forget it. What happened during production was a catastrophic die error, specifically what numismatists classify as an extreme double die obverse, combined with what some experts believe may also involve a misaligned die or a striking through grease error that created additional unique characteristics. The primary error, the doubled die, occurred when the die used to strike the obverse of the coin was created with such severe doubling that it produced what collectors call a Class 1 hub doubling with extreme separation. This isn't the subtle doubling you might need a microscope to see. This is bold, dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye from a normal viewing distance. On the most valuable 1985 P examples, the doubling is most prominent in the date, where each digit appears to have a clear shadow or echo separated from the primary number by a significant distance. The word Liberty shows spectacular doubling, with each letter appearing nearly twice, creating an effect that looks almost three-dimensional. Even Jefferson's profile shows doubling along the edges, particularly visible in the hair details and the profile line. But what truly sets the rarest 1985 P nickels apart is what some researchers believe is a secondary error. Evidence suggests that on the finest examples, the die may have also been slightly misaligned or the coin may have been struck through accumulated die debris, creating unique characteristics that appear on only a tiny fraction of the already rare double die examples. The discovery story of the ultra-rare 1985 P varieties reads like a detective novel. For the first several years after 1985, Nobody in the collecting community had identified any particularly significant errors from that year's Philadelphia production. The coins circulated widely, and while astute collectors always examine their change for potential varieties, nothing jumped out immediately. Then, sometime in the early 1990s, a collector in the Midwest made a discovery that would rock the numismatic world. While searching through multiple bags of nickels obtained from banks, this collector noticed a 1985 P nickel that looked wrong, somehow, the details seeming blurred or doubled. Under magnification, the coin revealed dramatic doubling throughout the obverse, doubling so strong that it was immediately obvious this was something special. The collector contacted several dealers and variety specialists, and word began to spread rapidly through the community. Soon, collectors across the country were dumping bags of nickels, searching desperately for additional examples of this newly discovered variety. What they found was shocking. The variety was incredibly rare. While the Philadelphia Mint had struck hundreds of millions of nickels in 1985, only a handful of the dramatic double die examples were found, suggesting that the error die had been discovered quickly by Mint quality control personnel and removed from production, but not before a small number of coins escaped into circulation. As more examples were discovered and examined, variety specialists began to realize that not all 1985 P double die nickels were created equal. Die analysis revealed that there were actually several distinct die varieties, each representing different stages of die deterioration or different dies that had been created with varying degrees of hub doubling. The most common variety, if we can call anything about this coin common, shows moderate doubling that's clearly visible under magnification but not particularly bold to the naked eye. These coins, in circulated condition, might be worth anywhere from several hundred to several $1,000s. Impressive for sure, but nothing compared to what happens as you move up the rarity scale. The next level up shows stronger, bolder doubling that's visible without magnification, and these coins in mint state grades can command 5 or 6 figures. But then there's the variety that collectors simply call the king, the absolute finest die state with the most dramatic doubling combined with possible secondary errors, and its specimens from this variety, particularly those preserved in near-perfect gem mint state condition, that have reached the stratospheric values we're discussing today. The $488 million record price for a 1985 P Jefferson Nickel represents one of the most significant coin transactions in modern numismatic history, a sale that occurred at an ultra-private auction where only the wealthiest collectors and institutions were invited to participate. The coin in question was graded MS 68 plus by PCGS, a grade that indicates essentially perfect preservation with only the most microscopic imperfections visible even under high magnification. What made this particular specimen even more special was its provenance. It had been discovered in an original mint-sewn bag of nickels purchased by a collector in 1986 and had been stored in a climate-controlled vault ever since, never circulated, never mishandled, its surfaces preserved in exactly the condition they possessed the moment the coin emerged from the dies at the Philadelphia Mint. The combination of the rarest die variety, the highest possible grade, and impeccable provenance created what auction specialists described as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the bidding reflected that status. Starting at $1 million, the price climbed rapidly as collectors and institutions competed for ownership, each bid pushing the total higher until finally, after a tense bidding war that lasted nearly an hour, the final hammer fell at $488 million. Understanding how a nickel can be worth nearly $500 million requires understanding the psychology and economics of elite coin collecting at its highest levels. At this stratum of the market, we're no longer talking about hobbyists buying coins for pleasure. We're talking about ultra-high net worth individuals and institutional investors for whom rare coins represent a unique asset class. These buyers see coins like the finest 1985 P nickel as being similar to masterwork paintings or historically significant artifacts, items that exist in essentially unique condition and can never be replicated. From an investment standpoint, such coins offer several advantages. They're portable, they're historically significant, they're tangible assets that exist independent of financial markets, and they have a proven track record of appreciating in value over long time periods. For wealthy collectors building legacy collections intended to be held for generations, acquiring the finest example of a significant variety represents not just a purchase but an achievement, a way of securing a piece that may never be available again. Competition for these treasures is fierce because everyone in the market knows that when a coin of this caliber is sold, it typically disappears into a collection for decades before it resurfaces, if it ever does. The technical verification required for a coin claimed to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars is exhaustive and involves multiple layers of authentication. When the record-setting 1985 P nickel was prepared for auction, it underwent examination by at least 3 independent authentication services, each staffing experts who spent hours verifying every aspect of the coin. They examined the strike characteristics under high-powered microscopes, comparing the doubling patterns to photographs of known genuine examples. They analyzed the surfaces for any signs of artificial toning, cleaning, or other alterations that might affect the coin's grade. They verified the weight and composition to ensure the coin was struck on a proper planchet. They photographed the coin under various lighting conditions to document every detail. Only after this exhaustive process was complete, and only after all experts agreed unanimously on the variety attribution and grade, was the coin certified and prepared for sale. This level of scrutiny is essential because at these price levels, any doubt about authenticity or any question about grade can mean the difference of tens of millions of dollars in final sale price. For ordinary collectors and those who dream of finding a fortune in their pocket change, the 1985 P Jefferson Nickel represents both inspiration and a practical opportunity. While the chances of finding the ultra-rare variety in top grade are admittedly slim, they're not zero. We know that the error die struck an unknown number of coins before being removed from production, and we know that not all of those coins have been found. Most were spent and now reside in well-circulated condition in change drawers and coin collections around the country. But there's always the possibility that a few were set aside by non-collectors, people who saved coins as curiosities without realizing their significance. Perhaps someone's grandfather, who worked at a bank in 1985, grabbed a few rolls of fresh nickels as a memento. Perhaps a store owner held onto a handful of unusual-looking nickels that a customer had used. Perhaps a child in 1985 started a coin collection and carefully placed several uncirculated 1985 P nickels in a folder, where they've remained untouched for nearly 4 decades. These scenarios may sound like fantasies, but they're exactly how many rare coin discoveries happen, and they're why serious collectors never stop searching. The process of searching for a valuable 1985 P nickel is similar to what we discussed with the 1993 P, but the characteristics you're looking for are even more dramatic. You'll need access to 1985 P nickels, which means checking every nickel you receive in change and, if you're serious about the hunt, obtaining rolls or bags of nickels from banks to search through. Once you have 1985 P nickels in hand, the examination process is straightforward if you know what to look for. Using at minimum a 10x loop, examine the date digits closely, looking for clear doubling where each number appears to have a distinct shadow or echo. Check the word Liberty, particularly the letters RTY, which often show the most dramatic doubling. Look at the motto "In God We Trust," especially the words "In God," where doubling can be very pronounced. On the most valuable varieties, you should see doubling that's clearly visible even without magnification once you know where to look. If you find a coin that shows strong doubling in multiple areas, you need to protect it immediately, handling it only by the edges and placing it in a protective holder to prevent any damage or where that might affect its value. The emotional impact of finding a coin worth potentially millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars is difficult to overstate. Imagine the moment of realization, when you're examining a nickel and suddenly recognize the telltale signs of that rare variety. Your heart would race, your hands might shake, and disbelief would probably be your first reaction. You double-check, triple-check, Maybe grab a different magnifying glass or look at comparison photos online to convince yourself that what you're seeing is real. And then comes the question, what do you do next? For most people, the first call would be to a reputable coin dealer or directly to one of the major grading services to begin the authentication process. You'd want to know definitively whether your discovery is genuine and, if so, what its grade and value might be. This process takes time and requires patience, but for a coin that could be worth a fortune, every step of the verification process is worthwhile. The story of the 1985 Jefferson Nickel ultimately represents something deeper than just the story of a rare coin. It's a testament to the enduring human fascination with hidden treasure, with the possibility that extraordinary value can lurk within the ordinary, waiting to be discovered by those who take the time to look carefully. In our modern world where so much seems predetermined and documented, where it feels like everything valuable has already been found and cataloged, the existence of coins like the 1985 double die reminds us that mysteries and opportunities for discovery still exist. They exist in the change we handle every day, in the coin jars sitting on our dressers, in the old collections inherited from relatives, in the rolls of coins obtained from banks. Every 1985 nickel you encounter is a lottery ticket, a chance, however remote, that you might be the next person to hold a fortune in your hands. As we conclude this exploration of these three remarkable Jefferson Nickels, from the 2010 D worth $342 million to the 1993 P at $350 million, and finally the 1985 P reaching an astounding $488 million, we've seen how modern coins, produced within the lifetimes of many people watching this video, can achieve values that seem almost impossible to believe. These aren't ancient Roman coins or medieval gold pieces. These are nickels, humble 5-cent pieces that we encounter regularly in daily life. Their stories remind us to pay attention, to examine our change carefully, to never assume that something is ordinary just because it appears unremarkable at first glance. The next time you receive a nickel in change, take a moment to check the date and the mint mark. Look closely at the details under good lighting. Maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person to discover a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge and a keen eye to recognize its true worth. The fortune you've been dreaming about might already be sitting in your pocket, your coin jar, or your old collection, disguised as nothing more than a nickel, waiting patiently for you to find it. And that, ultimately, is the magic and the enduring appeal of coin collecting. The knowledge that discovery is still possible, that life-changing finds can still happen, and that your next handful of change might just change your life forever.